Hello, I'm Jancy McPhee, and I'm the Executive Director of SciArt Exchange. Welcome to the creative stage at the Humans to Mars Summit. We will be bringing you innovators using science, technology, and the arts to spark and inspire new stories of space. But first, we'd like to introduce you to us, the nonprofit, and our way of thinking. And then we'll introduce you to our fabulous guests for this week.
What if we could bring people from all ages, backgrounds, and cultures together to solve the challenges ahead? What could we achieve? Where could we go? SciArt Exchange was conceived based on the International Humans in Space Art Program, which I created while a NASA scientist 10 years ago. Originally to give youth worldwide a chance to learn about space and relay their vision of the future through visual, literary, musical, and video art. After all, children are the future. We then use their multimedia artwork in displays, performances, and celebrations that engaged others in a global dialogue about the future of space exploration. Through our activities, SciArt Exchange invites, prepares, and convenes people to discuss and potentially solve space, science, and technology challenges using a multimedia approach. We aim to foster communication, creativity, and collaboration across cultural and intellectual boundaries. We've worked with children, early career professionals, and full career scientists and artists. 9,000 people from over 60 countries have participated in our contests and campaigns, and over 3 million people have seen or heard the artwork in person worldwide. Great things happen at the intersection of science, technology, and the arts. This is a mentally creative and challenging space, encouraging us to use our whole brain and the best skills and processes to work together. It's exciting, it's important, it's our future, and we invite you to come join us.
So I was wondering if I could just take a minute to talk to you a little bit about why is the nonprofit called SciArт Exchange? And there's actually a reason for that. So when I was thinking about bridging these communities between science and technology and the arts, I had a mental image of what does that really mean? And initially, I wanted to think of it as kind of like SciArt integration. But that sounded to me like two communities that had some overlap. And there was just a small overlap. I want us to figure out what STEAM thinking is enough so that the two communities are completely overlapping, that there's this, in a geeky term, this rapid exchange between science and technology, almost like, if anyone knows what Brownian motion is and particles in a box, there's a rapid exchange between the two fields, like they are completely superimposed. And I'd like all of us to get to the point where we are thinking like that, and we are able and prepared to work with others who are also able and prepared to work and think in that intimate way. And that will be how we get beyond what we're really experiencing as just the initial phases of STEAM thinking, which is using the arts paired with science and technology as really more of kind of like a communication and a visualization of the future of science and technology. Instead, I'd like there to be this intimate relationship where the arts is actually helping us to solve our future challenge. We will face many challenges as we move forward to explore and develop the moon, Mars, and deeper into space. And these challenges include needs for us to advance science and technology. And one of the coolest things about space exploration and development is that it's like a huge umbrella under which many different types of science and technology need to evolve, including things like medicine, propulsion, communications, habitat design, and more. And those advances can also benefit life on Earth. But space presents other challenges as well that are related to funding, strategy, social and ethical decisions, and developing a prepared future workforce. And solving these problems and implementing all of our solutions on the moon and Mars requires a lot of different kinds of people to conceive and tell the story of the future, but also to work together to find truly novel and creative solutions. STEAM doesn't mean locomotive. It means STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, plus the arts. And we didn't coin the term. That was coined 10 or 20 years ago. And we've been spending a lot of time, us and others, trying to understand, what does STEAM really mean? What does it mean to bring the disciplines that are normally stovepiped, STEM, fields, engineering, technology, science, together with the arts, music, literature, film, visual art? How do we bridge this gap when so many of us have been educated in one or the other? Before I start talking about STEAM thinking, I would like to introduce my co-host, my friend, and my colleague, Ari Peralta. And he is fabulous. He's been applying STEAM thinking to his multiple activities, which include numerous businesses. And he has been an incredible help over the last year with SciArt Exchange's activities. So first, Ari.
Really excited that we get to be now a part of this new generation of STEAM thinkers who are have already paved the path to define STEAM, but now we're really talking about how to break down the barriers to further implement it. And I think we're all in agreement. That's where we're at in business as well, right? Where we're talking about innovation, but now we need to be talking about implementation and impact and measurable impact. So the work that SciArt is doing, while it's focusing right on creative communities and how to use that as the glue within the other communities, I think it's something that we can all learn from. And I think that's what's exciting. In now being a new member of the board and bringing my own experience and a lot of new thinking. And again, it's all about integrating these ideas. I think if there's anything we can all agree to in this conference is that we like a lot of things. And we put those things together, and it really makes us who we are when we bring those things together. But when we share those things, we really augment the level of impact that we can have through our own knowledge. And I think with STEAM thinking, it's all about making impact. It's all about applying that knowledge. So this is an exciting stage for us and an exciting wave because we all have the right motivation. With AI at our doorsteps, with automation at our doorsteps, our workforce is just going to need it. We're all going to need it. And it doesn't have a generational bias. We're all going to need to adapt to this kind of cross-pollinated training.
So you've already seen how SciArт Exchange evolved out of my work as a space life scientist at NASA. And you don't know a lot of the backstory of how all of that happened, but the things that I am interested in are very much related to who I am and what I did at NASA. So the things that I really value are solving the challenges that are ahead for us in space, science, and technology. And I feel that in order to do that, we need to be able to communicate effectively to each other and solve our challenges creatively, which means that we will look for our solutions in a larger group of people. That if we can get different minds together in the room, we can really come up with creative solutions. But that also means that each person has to be able to think and work creatively, and then when they're in a team, they have to be able to work with each other.
When you get all these different communities together, which we get to, thankfully, thanks to the different projects and initiatives from SciArt, that's when the magic happens. And we all know that innovation comes from, doesn't come from always from within. It comes from other input. And when we see that input, again, regardless of age, from these other fields, just adding it really creates something special. And I think if we're talking about not just making it to Mars, but thriving in Mars, we really need to aim for the best.
Whether it's to advance space exploration or it's to create the next amazing thing for business, it really takes a number of things to be in that creative space. And one is to have that in-depth knowledge. We do all have to specialize to some degree, but it's not a narrowed knowledge. We still need to allow ourselves to have a broad experience base. And then it's also to recognize in ourselves, and that takes some training, when we are thinking openly and not sort of stuck in the same mental pattern and the rut. And then the third piece to really be in that creative space is motivation, because creativity is hard. And if you're not motivated, it's going to be difficult to stay in that space. So I think creating this community is also creating a supportive network. Last year, we focused on storytelling. This year, we're looking a few steps into the future and talking about actually creating a tangible change by working collaboratively together. And I think that's ultimately where STEAM thinking is headed. Just like Design Your Habitat was designed to support our community during a very difficult period of isolation and confinement, I think that we can create these communities that are creating together. I would love it if by the end of this conversation, we opened everyone's eyes to realize that they're already doing a little bit of STEAM thinking and that they could do more.
That STEAM is forward thinking, right? STEAM is design thinking. STEAM is human-centric thinking. So now that we're looking at things in a much more ecosystematic way, we're looking at holistic ways of measuring, holistic ways of applying it, and holistic ways of really creating campaigns that are dynamic. And I think the community of artists and again, colleagues from all different fields, including members of NASA, former astronauts, including designers, name it. We had just such a wonderful collection and representation of different communities that have an interest in space and STEAM thinking, and really helped enrich our offering and with Design Your Habitat.
Totally agree. And I think part of the point that we're trying to make is that everybody has a capacity. And I really think that most people are not working at their capacity. They have an analytical capacity, they have a creative capacity, they have a teamwork capacity, they have a thinking out of the box capacity. And I just think that a lot of us are not trained to really be self-aware where we are in our thinking processes, nor are we taught to have some of the skills we need to be able to do things in the best possible way. And honestly, STEAM thinking is hard. It's much easier to just kind of think in one dimension. But to walk this knife edge where we're looking at this close relationship between all these different ways of approaching problem solving, that's hard. And it takes a motivated person in order to do that. But it's also really, really interesting and creative and fun. And the results can be absolutely incredible. So I think there's a lot of value there. But I think that we need to help train each other how to do this. And also, as you mentioned, make these approaches accessible to people. And SciArtExchange Exchange has just taken some of those baby steps to do that. As we discussed earlier when we opened the show, we have been holding international contests for multimedia artwork about the future of space exploration. And that really helps to tell the story of the future, to conceive that future, to visualize it, to relay messages, even if you're not currently a practicing scientist or engineer in the space community. It brings everybody in, it welcomes them, but it's also secretly training them a little bit. So if a scientist or an engineer wants to join one of these multimedia art contests, then they're practicing their ability to communicate about the future of space and think about it potentially differently. And for those who are more self-identifying as artists, we're inviting them to learn about space. It's there. You are totally capable to jump right in and learn and help us to build that future. So I think that those are the first baby steps, and we've worked with different age groups and given them an opportunity to be engaged in our contests and then use their multimedia artwork to help inspire others. But those are just the first steps. I think one of the interesting things is that most of us don't realize that we're already using STEAM thinking. Even if we're scientists and engineers during the day, we have other hobbies where we're doing things like playing music, or
Writing a
maybe,
book,
I know, painting a picture,
recording a song,
making a great new recipe.
which probably leads us to design your habitat. It became apparent that we were going to be stuck inside for a while, that our kids were going to be stuck inside for a while, not able to go to school. Jancy gives me a call and shares and says, "Hey, Ari, I want to do something. I don't know how. I need your help. Let's do something." And out of that desire to make a difference, out of that agility in the sense of responding to that quickly, and the creativity and inspiration to let's call some of our friends, let's call this campaign Design Your Habitat. Suddenly we created an amazing campaign.
And we really did try to look at this as an opportunity to reach out to our community more frequently, and also as an opportunity to get more feedback from them, more artwork, on a more steady basis. So, it wasn't just like a contest where there's one dump at the end and then there's a winner and only a couple of the winners get showcased. We wanted to bring the more isolated and confined community closer together, give them interesting things to do. It was really important. One of the first things I told Ari is, okay, we need to do something. It has to be super fun. Everybody is bummed, and we need it to be very positive, and we want to give them an opportunity to feel virtually connected, and maybe a little bit of accidental learning about space and science and technology. So the whole point was for it to be engaging and thought-provoking and supportive. And so Design Your Habitat, we thought, okay, let's make it a potpourri of things that you can think about, experience, and actually create yourself. Oh, I'm Jancy McPhee, and I'm the Executive Director of SciArt Exchange. Welcome to Design Your Habitat.
I feel like the kind of science fiction that I write, mostly, like with both Extant and Reverie, were what they would call out here in Hollywood, like grounded science fiction, sort of near future, and they were sort of just a leap, 5 minutes into the future. There's a technology that may exist, self-driving cars.
I came from a steamy family. I grew up with not only artists and musicians, but I also grew up with astronomers, mathematicians, and lawyers. So we always loved incorporating science with the arts. And one of the consistent things for my whole family was a love for the stars.
Favorite architects said that we are all astronauts on board Spaceship Earth. And I think it's really a wonderful thing to see when you're designing for a totally alien environment where we haven't been born into, that what the Earth does for us. How much, of our physical being and emotional being is tied to this earth.
I just want to start off with kind of giving a little backstory of why I want to be an aerospace engineer. Because when I was a really little kid, I can remember hearing about New Horizons and how it was going farther than anything we've ever made before, and I thought that would be cool. And so when I was really young, I decided I want to do something like that.
The thing about it is that if you want to put all of your interests together, nothing does that like the space program. It's a combination of everything that I really love. It's marine science, diving, photography, geology, flying, international aspects. What for me is cool is cooking in strange places, and above all, I think kind of meeting people that are just like you. And the space program does that like nothing else.
Post-flight, astronauts have a very heavy publicity schedule. They also have activities they enjoy doing, like scuba diving and mountain climbing. There may be new challenges in their lives, like becoming a best-selling author or running for political office or something like that, which would be healthy. It'd be important to be healthy for those as well. So there's lots and lots of justifications and motivations for a well-designed exercise protocol.
At high seas, you're on Mars. That's the simulation. You're not spending 2 weeks traveling through space to an asteroid. You're spending a whole year on the surface of Mars. That's your simulation. And the distance between you and Earth is fixed and the communication delay is 20 minutes each way. So they're not going to see you running up and down the stairs and tell you to slow down. They're not going to see you, or at least they didn't tell us if they did, stacking all of our tables up to see if we could reach the top of the dome. We couldn't.
All right, we're gonna go for 15 seconds, running in place with this jug, just like we're gonna be on the cold bar machine, all right? Ready, set, go. So we're gonna run in place, just like this. I'm gonna shake from the side as well. Again, make sure you keep your knees high, just like you're running, all right?
Now, but wait a second. Why does the hotter thing feel colder and the colder thing feel hotter? Well, have you ever seen an optical illusion before? This is where your brain comes in.
So that's what I'm thinking, okay, I'm not painting right now, but I'm creating this story for people, this what I want to share. It's called Back to Earth, and it's a lot about what we've talked about today too, maybe with a little different twist, but I think, we have built this mechanical life support system in space, right? This space station. And somehow over the last 20 years, we have peacefully, successfully worked with our crewmates from 15 different countries, and with this greater mission that we've all agreed to. And there's fantastic science coming out of it. There's learning more about ourselves as humans coming out of it.
Spent 2 weeks in space, but I've spent 4 months in Antarctica on 2 different expeditions. And the isolation and confinement in Antarctica is in some ways even more extreme than on the space station. On the space station, you can go to the bathroom without having to put on 4 layers of clothes, and there's better internet on the space station than there is in a field camp in Antarctica. This is a big Antarctic meteorite. Our team found this was the first meteorite our team found in 2012.
I've interviewed over 40 astronauts for my writings about the overview effect, and I would say if there were one way to summarize what they've been telling me, what their message is about their experience of seeing the Earth from outer space, it's this: we're all in this together.
So it was in response to the global pandemic that was happening. So we created a project called the Design Your Habitat campaign, which had a theme about comparing what's the normally isolated and confined conditions of space capsules and space habitats and space environments in general for humans to live in, and what we were now going through here around the world in being more socially distant. So these activities are still open, but we're adding more and more for students to use throughout the summer and maybe even in the fall and the spring. So one of the wonderful things about the whole Design Your Habitat project, which was sort of this emergency reaction, moving quickly and developing the whole plan and executing it, is that the journey continues. So we got a really great response, and as Ari and I have been saying, we had incredible guests participate, just coming right in and helping us out. But what we're doing now is we are engaging formal and informal educators and entrepreneurs to create more activities to put on the backbone of this scaffold for Design Your Habitat with each of the 8 themes, comparing what we're going through now with the naturally isolated and confined conditions of space. So we've already had the opportunity to do that over the summer. They gave us 10 great new activities that are very in-depth and can actually be used by classroom teachers, while many students are still working at a remote level. And it continues. We're going to collect more in the fall and in the spring, and this is our opportunity to ask any of you out there, if you've got some ideas for an activity, to please register and work with us to create more activities under Design Your Habitat to support our global community. STEAM education is a movement to have a more integrated curriculum for children to help train our future workforce to be knowledgeable about facts, but also better able to communicate, be creative. And then participants can continue to share what they create and keep us all virtually united. Enough about Design Your Habitat. Now we'd like to actually get you ready for this week at the Humans to Mars Summit for our creative stage. And Ari and I are very excited to be showcasing people who are actually using STEAM thinking. So one of the easiest ways to understand STEAM thinking is to see it in action. And our incredible guests will be wonderful examples of that. And we're going to introduce them in just a minute. But I think Ari had a couple more words that he wanted to say before we left you.
We'd like to take a moment to thank Explore Mars and the Humans to Mars Summit Committee for giving us an opportunity to showcase a platform where creative storytellers can share their stories. And these aren't just storytellers, they're creative STEAM thinkers who are applying this type of thinking day in and day out. They have some incredible diverse projects from all the senses. So enjoy sensing space. Each day as we unlock new performances on the Sensing Space stage, including a grand finale performance by my friend Tom Middleton.
Thank you again so much for joining us today. Sensing Space and making it a reality requires all of us to work together and apply STEAM thinking to solve our future challenges. Let's do this.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.